welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, gunmen attack offices of anti-corruption body EFCC in Abuja, leave behind the death notes for one of the agency's top investigators. Acting President Professor Yemi Osinbajo lauds Nigeria's resilience in the face of large-scale corruption, assigns portfolios to recently sworn-in ministers. More universities across the country join industrial action declared by the Academic Staff Union of Universities as strike enters day 3. And General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, receives book chronicling his life and ministry as surprise birthday gift.
And in business news tonight, federal government saves 4.7 billion naira monthly from bank charges through Treasury single account policy.
While on sports news, the champions of the 2016-17 Nigeria Women's Premier League season will be decided on September the 16th in Benin City, Edo State.
And from Abuja, members of Concerned Nigerians Group suspend sit-in protest at the Unity Fountain, Abuja, a day after they were attacked at Wuse Market.
We begin tonight from Abuja, where the headquarters of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission came under attack early this morning. Although the gunmen were repelled by security operatives, they did not leave without dropping a death note for one of the agency's detectives. The EFCC spokesman, Mr. Wilson Wajere, who confirmed the incident, explains that the case has already been reported to the police. His statement read in part, "The hoodlums escaped in a getaway vehicle, but not without leaving a message. A white envelope dropped by the fleeing attackers was found to contain the death threat addressed to Ishaku Sheru, a senior investigator with the Commission. Ishaku, who heads the Foreign Exchange Malpractices Fraud Section, is in charge of corruption investigations involving senior political exposed persons and retired military personnel. The attack on the EFCC headquarters, which is the first of its kind, is coming a few weeks after another investigator, Austin Okwo, was shot by assailants in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Now, no nation can survive the level of corruption that has challenged Nigeria in the past years, and that's the view of the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who was at the swearing-in of 15 new permanent secretaries in Abuja. Professor Osinbajo explains that it's impossible to implement government policies or programs with the level of corruption that's been witnessed in the previous years. He also assigned portfolios to 2 recently sworn-in ministers.
The weekly Federal Executive Council meeting commences by receiving guests in the form of 15 newly appointed permanent secretaries. Four at a time, they take their oaths of office. They are encouraged by the acting president to support the federal government program, as well as the fight against corruption.
We do not believe that any nation can survive at the levels of corruption that we have witnessed in our country in the past years. It is completely impossible to implement government policies or programs or to ensure that the benefits of economic programs, the benefits even of democracy, ever reach the ordinary man if corruption remains at the levels that it had been in previous years. It is your responsibility as federal permanent secretaries, especially these new core federal permanent secretaries, chosen and selected on merit, to ensure that you carry out in the fullest measure all of the anti-corruption programs of this government. We expect that permanent secretaries will be the drivers of the implementation of the executive orders.
2 new ministers sworn in on the 26th of July 2017 also received their portfolios.
Professor Stephen Ocheni will be assigned the portfolio of Minister of State in the Ministry of Labour and Employment. And Mr. Suleiman Hassan will be posted or will be assigned the portfolio of Honorable Minister of State for Power, Works and Housing.
The ceremony concluded. The acting president presides over the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting where approval is given for the rehabilitation of the Takpe-Ajaokuta rail line by a Chinese firm at the cost of $122.62 million.
It's day 3 of the indefinite nationwide strike embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, and the university lecturers are not backing down on their demands. They've refused to heed to the calls from the federal government for the cancellation of the industrial action, as they insist the government must fulfill the agreements reached in 2009 and 2013.
It's day 3 of the industrial action called by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, and the compliance is almost total across the country. From the southeast, lecturers at the Enugu State University have also joined the train as the branch agreed to join forces with the national body to press home their demands.
No lecturer shall teach any course. No lecturer shall attend any statutory meetings. No lecturer shall attend Senate meetings, appraisal, whether they call it promotion appraisal, but they may use it as a ploy. Nobody shall attend. Nobody shall attend inaugural lecture. Everything, including our conventional classes, with regards to academic activities, have been shut down.
Now there's total compliance with the ASUU order at the University of Ibadan and the University of Lagos. Academic activities have stopped and students who were scheduled to start their examinations have been turned back. But the story is different at the University of Ilorin, where academic activities are on. The branch has dissociated itself from the national body over a dispute which has not been resolved. Same can be said of the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, where the order from the National Union did not stop the lecturers from conducting examinations.
The University of Ilorin is not on strike, simply because the University of Ilorin is, as at now, not part of the National Executive Council of ASUU. And this has been the situation since 2001. And the status quo remains.
Up north at the Bayero University in Kano, the school gate has been shut, even though a few students are still seen on campus.
This strike is just indefinite and we don't know when it's going to, if it takes for like too long, it's definitely going to add to the duration of our program.
The Academic Staff Union of Universities is demanding the revitalization of the university system, totaling 1.3 trillion naira spread across 6 years. They're also asking for the payment of the outstanding balance of earned academic allowances and registration of the Nigerian University's pension management company. They're also protesting fractionization and non-payment of salaries, among others.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, is admitting that the federal government failed to meet its part of the agreement reached with ASUU. He told State House correspondents after the Federal Executive Council meeting that the government is unhappy that the lecturers embarked on the strike without giving adequate notice. The minister expects that some agreements would be reached at its next meeting with the union.
Late last year, we had a meeting because they gave a 1-week notice of strike, and were able to work out some agreement. I should confess, the government has not fulfilled its part of the bargain. Even though I'm just very unhappy that ASUU went on this strike without following due process and giving us good notice. But we realized that we have promised something and we didn't fulfill. I hope I'll be meeting them later today or tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll be able to reach some agreement so that the strike will be called off as soon as possible. The problem actually arose because they were not able to account for this 30 billion, and we said we'll only give them the balance if they are able to account. And the balance is 23. So actually, it's a total of 53 billion. The government has the money to pay.
To discuss the ASUU strike, which is now in its third day, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the former head of civil service of the Federation, Professor Oladapo Afolabi. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you very much.
Now, there's been a lot of back and forth about the way the strike was called. Everyone seems to say it took them by surprise. We heard the Minister of Labour, now the Minister of Education. What's your impression?
Well, it must be by surprise. Ordinarily, when you call a dispute of this nature, there's some form of notice. Perhaps notice was given.
Oh, really? Because when you do hear from the ASUU side, they talk about several letters that were written months past and they were ignored. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think the contention now will not be to actually debate whether there was notice or not. The strike is on. And we should do all that it requires to get all the stakeholders to come back to the discussion table, give each other the assurances required so that our children will not suffer.
You have a lot of experience in terms of resolving disputes of this nature. What sort of concessions do you think the federal government should make on their part? Let's start from them.
Well, I would say basically the STEM agreement is the 2009 agreement. Yeah. That was a very robust agreement. And in there, if all the issues had been followed, making that agreement a living agreement as intended, I would say that there wouldn't be any ASUU strike, whether now or in future. So fundamentally, both parties should look at that agreement once again and see how they can be preemptive of any strike. My suggestion at this point is that the symptoms which have been discussed now, because I looked at what the demands are, they are quite symptomatic. They appear easy to actually resolve between all the stakeholders. So they should go to this negotiation with a very open mind and have a give and take so that while other things have been addressed, the strike is called off.
Well, you say they appear easy. Does it really appear easy? Some people are arguing that at the time some of those agreements were made, we didn't have the economic realities that we have now, and so perhaps there should be concessions on ASUU's side. What do you think?
Well, the agreement that was actually reached at the time had the ingredients of implementation. If you have a lag time on any of the components, the kind of result that we have now is what we will have. So we have to revisit that agreement, look at the implementation mechanisms that will enable to some extent, and that is what I call for. All the three components of autonomy for the university. Universities elsewhere, they have all the autonomies, academic, administrative, and financial. We have to address all of those, develop the mechanism. But as it is now, what my advice will be to both ASUU and government is to quickly reach a form of give and take on all the issues. I'm saying it's easy in the sense that if the mind is open, positive, and we think of the repercussions, we can easily eat a kind of midway agreement and move on.
All right, former head of civil service of the Federation, Professor Oladapo Afolabi, thanks for joining us on the news at 10 tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And in part two, after the break, Federal High Court in Lagos fixes date to deliver judgment in the fundamental rights enforcement suit filed by suspected kidnapper Chukwudumeme Onwamadike, also known as Evans. Please stay with us.